The Uncharted franchise is one that represents the epitome of growth in a single gaming generation. Naughty Dog showed potential for the franchise in Uncharted Drake's Fortune, then took the cinematic pulp the original game aimed to replicate to absolute perfection in Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. With Among Thieves winning tens of Game of the Year awards and going down in all-time greatest games rankings, we're now faced with the next entry, Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception, an adventure that intends on bettering both its predecessors in not just spectacle, but in both its cinematic atmosphere and multi-layered story. Is this the greatest game in the franchise, or have Naughty Dog deceived us into believing it should be?
Finally, Drake's secret will be revealed.
Uncharted 3 finds Nathan Drake and his pal Victor Sully Sullivan hot on the trail of the fabled Atlantis of the Sands, a mythical city hidden deep in the Rub al Khali Desert of the Arabian Peninsula. At different segments of their pursuit, they're joined by returning characters Elena Fisher and Chloe Fraser, among others. But Drake and Sully aren't the only ones clamouring to find a city of immeasurable wealth. Hot on their asses are a clandestine English society headed by the vicious Catherine Marlowe, who rightfully believes that the ring, originally belonging to Francis Drake and now in Nathan's possession, is rightfully hers. Marlowe and her formidably enigmatic partner in crime Talbot serve as the most interesting villains in the franchise, as their cerebral methodology of intimidating Drake backs him into a corner where his actions and choices begin to show a lasting impact on not just himself but on those around him. All in all, the story in Uncharted 3 is terrific, providing our favourite action hero with situations and emotional apexes unseen in the franchise to this point. Drake gets stuck in a burning chateau, sucked out of the sky as a plane goes down, and stranded in infinite stretches of Arabian sands. He's a much darker, less sardonic Drake this time around, and that may disappoint some players out there who are used to the guy being able to throw out hilarious quips even with a gun pointed directly in his face. Elements of Drake's relationship with his mentor/father figure Sully are explored nicely throughout the story, and what we ultimately receive is a pair of well fleshed out characters that we felt we already knew well enough to shout them a drink on a Friday night. Despite the focus on the heroes, the villains as people are paper thin. Their motivations at the end of the day are barely clear cut, and facets of their powers are never fully explored or explained to the depth that they could have been. This leads to annoying story plot holes that are only highlighted even more so because the rest of the campaign is so perfectly crafted it's hard to ignore these little imperfections. Uncharted 2 lacked this kind of complexity, and it seems that in some aspects Naughty Dog did rightly so to avoid it then. In the end though, none of that even comes close to blemishing the core experience of Uncharted 3.
We're even.
Uncharted 3 is exactly the same as previous games in the franchise, a third-person shooter with platforming and a strongly directed story-driven gameplay experience. But what's here is greatly refined and smoother than its predecessor. Unlike Uncharted 2's near-mindless enemy AI, your adversaries in Uncharted 3 split up to higher ground, try to flank, or just send ridiculously over-armoured shotgun troopers to take you out. Breaking up the repetition of the gunplay is a new and improved focus on melee combat, given a significant upgrade from Uncharted 2. Dependent on where the fisticuffs take place, Drake will direct his foes into parts of the environment and even pick up objects laying about the place such as bottles and rocks to finish them off. The melee system is best utilised in a series of fights against gigantic brute-type enemies, and Naughty Dog has tailored these confrontations to be as cinematic as possible, which add further to sell the experience they want you to have. Though fighting these large brute-type enemies can get repetitive due to a lack of real animation variety or change up in battle tactics, they're fun nonetheless. Diverging into head-scratching territory with its puzzles, Uncharted 3 houses some of the franchise's most uniquely entertaining enigmas that, while clever, may be too rigid and difficult for some players. It's thankfully saved by a hint and answer system if players find themselves stuck. The platforming remains the same as ever, and while great, Naughty Dog tries to throw in one too many cliffhanger style moments that, while starting out unpredictable, quickly descend into that's what I was expecting to happen moments, which unfortunately does become a practice in itself very tired.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Finding its return into Uncharted 3 is the multiplayer suite, and it's seen a significant improvement over its predecessor, with customizable loadouts, perk-styled boosters that can be leveled up, and the ability to both unlock new weapons, character skins, and taunts through a standard cash earning system that doubles as XP. Standard modes like Team Deathmatch return, albeit with a few tweaks to the formula, while objective modes like Plunder spice things up with some variety. The inclusion of a buddy system, where players can pair up and spawn on each other and work together to kill enemies and high-five over their dead bodies, adds nicely to team tactics, while power plays randomly pop up during team deathmatches to give the losing team a chance to try and catch up if a huge margin occurs, in order to reap some last-minute bonuses. Highly notable of Uncharted 3's multiplayer suite are the cinematic nature of the levels. Standouts include Airstrip, which finds players jumping between speeding trucks to board a moving cargo plane, and Desert Village, where an intense sandstorm will randomly sweep through the map at timed intervals. When you take down an enemy opponent, there's an off chance they'll drop a random treasure that can be collected and count towards completing treasure sets that award specific unlockables, such as weapons and apparel for your characters. If you pick up a treasure that you've already collected, Naughty Dog's included a very nice feature that allows you to post a duplicate treasure onto your Facebook profile and allows both yourself and other friends to earn cash when they click on it, which will be rewarded to everyone when they next sign in. Enhancements even leech their way into the fundamentals of the game's networking design. You can now join games mid-match and take on the online populace with a friend in split-screen play. The ability to sign in with a second individual PSN ID for both players to rank up is something of a masterstroke. Also making its return is co-op. There's a co-op arena where up to 3 players must survive 10 waves of tough enemies while completing objective-based missions, and a new mode called Co-op Hunter, where 2 players must try to capture as many treasures as possible against 2 other players that are teamed up with computer-controlled AI teammates. The true star of the show is the expanded Co-op Adventure mode, where up to 3 players can go through 5 story-based adventures that are loosely based on moments in the campaign. The multiplayer package in Uncharted 3 is exceptional, and one that you'll be playing for months to come since Naughty Dog's commitment to the game remains unwavering, and their now promised 14 DLC packs will find their way onto PSN through 2012.
I've got one shot at this.
You two can hold hands, though.
The level design in Uncharted 3's campaign is the most varied in the series, going between populated cities, jungles, sand, and even vehicles that dynamically move as you progress through them. The amount of detail in each environment is unbelievable, with Naughty Dog exercising as much power out of the PS3 as they possibly can, and it does show in some very, very minor moments with texture pop-ins, frame rate drops, and the 1 or 2 glitches that randomly show their face. The physics of the dynamic levels such as the cargo plane and the cruise ship shift the entire dynamic of the game, and it's this attention to detail that further immerses the player into the story world better than most games on the market. The Middle Eastern music score imbues the game with a darker, more exotic layout than its predecessors, and also serves the story brilliantly when it comes to amping up the drama of the situation. As always, the voice acting and performance capture are fantastic, with the actors continuing to thrive in etching out some of gaming's most relatable and unique characters. The drastic increase in facial animation allows the character drama to be accentuated even more than Uncharted 2, as lines in foreheads, sadness in the eyes, and gestures of pain or humour are never communicated in the wrong way. As expected, it's PS3's best looking game and one of the best looking in gaming.
Oh, shit! Never a dull moment, huh, Sully?
Why change now?
Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception is yet again a new reason to own a PlayStation 3. Naughty Dog proved yet again that they're masters of their craft, delivering a memorable, enthralling, and emotionally satisfying entry into the Uncharted universe. The set pieces are exciting, the action is thrilling and challenging, and the design and graphical fidelity of the game remains unmatched on consoles. Given the near-perfect 8 to 10 hour campaign, the addictive multiplayer component, and the fun and intriguingly offbeat co-op suite, Uncharted 3 Drake's Deception sells itself as not only the best PS3 game of 2011, but as one of the finest action-adventure games of the generation. We can't wait until Uncharted 4, but if Naughty Dog's resume is anything to go by, it's going to be one hell of a racing game.
How's it going?